Now, US President Donald Trump stated on Monday that the US will intensify actions against Iran and would go further and further while assuring that military operations would end very soon, helping stabilize turbulent markets amid the escalating West Asia conflict.
We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here, I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further. But the big risk on that war has been over for 3 days. We wiped them out in the first 2 days.
Now, following the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the assassinated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as Iran's new supreme leader, Tehran unleashed missile and drone barrages on Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Israel, and even Turkey, intercepted by NATO defenses. Iran maintains the Strait of Hormuz blockade, halting most tanker traffic and driving benchmark crude to highs before a partial retreat. Wall Street turned positive on Trump's short-term excursion remarks after over 5,000 targets were struck. France is leading defensive efforts to reopen the vital choke point post-conflict peak, while Russia has vowed unwavering support to Iran amid regional rallies and intensifying Hezbollah clashes in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, has declared that Iran alone will determine the end of the ongoing war, rejecting US President Donald Trump's claims of imminent victory and demands for unconditional surrender. Brigadier General Deputy Commander of Khatam al-Anbiya of Central Headquarters warned that if US and Israel attacks persist, Tehran will block even 1 liter of oil from leaving the region. He further vowed unrelenting retaliatory strikes and designated all American military bases across the West Asia as legitimate targets, signaling Tehran resolve to impose its will despite heavy losses and the prolonged regional crisis. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated on Tuesday that his country would keep fighting as long as necessary. In an interview with an American broadcaster, Araghchi effectively ruled out negotiations with Washington, saying Tehran had a very bitter experience of talking with the Americans. Recalling previous US attacks during earlier negotiations, Araghchi said he did not believe negotiations with the Americans would be on the agenda anymore. Speaking of the strategic Strait of Hormuz, Araghchi said that Iran has no intention to close it right now, but as the war continues, they will consider every scenario. Now, earlier, US President Donald Trump issued a forceful warning on Truth Social, threatening that any Iranian action to halt the oil flow through the Strait of Hormuz would trigger an overwhelming American response. He stated Iran would be struck 20 times harder than previous attacks and that United States would destroy easily destroyable targets to render Iran's rebuilding virtually impossible as a nation. Now, Trump also described the potential devastation as death, fire and fury while expressing hope it would not occur. He framed the US military capability as a gift to China and other major oil importers reliant on the strait, urging appreciation for America's protective role amid the escalating West Asia conflict. Donald Trump on Monday said that he had a very good call with the Russian president about Ukraine and the conflict in the West Asia.
I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And look, there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful.
Now, as per the Kremlin foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov, the two leaders spoke for about an hour after Trump initiated the call. He said Putin shared proposals aimed at reaching a quick settlement to the conflict involving Iran during the conversation.
A phone conversation took place this evening between the presidents of Russia and the United States. Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin to discuss a number of extremely important issues related to the current international situation. The focus naturally was on Iran conflict and on the US participated trilateral talks on the Ukrainian settlement. I should say straight away that the conversation was substantive, frank, and constructive, as is usually the case in the dialogue between the Russian and US leaders.
Деловой, откровенный.
Further, he also mentioned that Trump shared his view of the situation, particularly regarding the ongoing US-Israel military operation.
Президент России высказал ряд соображений.
The Russian president set out a number of considerations aimed at the swift political and diplomatic settlement of the Iran conflict, taking into account the contacts held with leaders of the Persian Gulf states, with Iran's president Pezeshkian, and with the heads of several other countries. In turn, the US president gave his assessment of developments in context of the ongoing US-Israel operation